Hey guys.
Hello, Shreya.
Hello, welcome to the
Hello.
English Eli presentation.
Yes. So
Yes.
Eli is a perfect example of a cyclical view of the universe. Eli's life revolves around his journey to Toronto to pursue the dominant culture's goals, as well as his return to indigenous life and values towards the end of his life. His life shows that individuals do not follow a set carved in stone path in life and are free to start over with different worldviews.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe that's true. Yeah. There's a reoccurring theme that I've noticed, like with Eli, and it's about him, like his redemption, right? So whenever we focus on him in the story, it's always about how he redeems himself. Sometimes it's about the past, but it's like about how he grows, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So for example, he left the dam and worked as a professor, but then once he realized that his mom died and they were going to break down his mom's last house, right? That was his only thing left connecting to his Aboriginal like culture. So he
Yeah. His
decided to
past.
protect it.
His
Yeah,
past.
so it's kind of like his redemption,
Yeah.
protecting what he has left, which makes him like an Indian. Because there's a quote that I remember reading, and it was like, if something goes like, I might not be a good, I might not be a good Indian, but I'm still an Indian, right? So it shows that
Yeah.
even though he's not good at at being in his culture,
Yeah,
he's still like trying to protect.
he's
Yeah,
definitely restarting his life. At the beginning,
yeah,
he went to Toronto and kind of pursued Canadian goals, like getting success, getting like rich, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But then after that, he actually went back to his hometown and actually pursued his community's goals, and he actually supported his community, and that's really interesting.
yeah, protecting his
Yeah.
community's
And
land.
what's
Yeah,
like really fascinating about his personality is that he's really sympathetic towards his mother, especially. Um, because out of concern, he just left his job and his social life as well just to move into his mother's house. So
yeah,
just to protect her land, which is really fascinating, I believe.
yeah. See, the cabin symbolizes his family, right? The hard work and struggles, because like
Mhm.
it even states that Eli's mom had to like single-handedly like create the whole house by herself and put every piece together, which shows like
Yeah.
how much emotion she put into it, right? It's isolation from technology. So when Eli goes to it, right, he's separating from the colonial museum and he's like going just like to his Aboriginal culture and just sticking with it, which shows changed throughout the whole story.
You can also actually think of it in terms of a personal sacrifice that he makes, actually,
Yeah,
because in order to kind of go back to this kind of lifestyle without the use of technology and such, um, it really requires a lot of courage, and I think he really does this to kind of combat the colonialist nature of the dam
hmm,
that has struck his community. I would actually argue that the dam is a symbol of colonialism because,
hmm,
literally interpreted, the dam impedes the flow of water and therefore represents the nonconformity of the Canadian government to treaties with Indigenous peoples. Since the treaties include the clause as long as the grass is green and the water runs, and moreover, the decision to build the dam on Indigenous lands rather than the more suitable site in Quebec, as Sifton mentioned, displays the
Mhm.
government's unjust treatment of Indigenous peoples. This has actually happened
yeah,
on multiple occasions. Eli standalone represents nonviolent resistance. In fact, Eli represents Elijah Harper, and this was actually mentioned in the last section of the book, the comment section, actually, because they both stood alone against colonialism and oppression. Particularly, Elijah actually single-handedly took down the Meech Lake Accord, which would have given French and English the only status as actual cultures in the country rather than indigenous people as well.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so did Eli. He really stopped that dam, which represents colonialism, and
yeah.
he was the one that did it all himself, all by himself.
Yeah, I felt like the dam
Yeah.
was more of like a technology versus nature. The dam can symbolize like the conflict between the colonialisms and Aboriginal people, because you could think of it as like the water as nature, a force of nature, while the technology, which is the dam, is like preventing it from moving on. So
Yeah.
like as the story progresses, we know that the dam breaks, which means we clearly know that the force of nature wins, which
Mhm.
is that kind of symbolizes that because of Eli, right, his
Yeah.
stand to protect the land. We can see that Lionel and like Letitia and all want to rebuild the land to protect it again. So it's like kind of like encourages other to protect it.
And you can
Yeah.
actually tell how the novel is a bit optimistic in that nature because I mean typically in like Canada like nowadays, I believe that usually corporate like companies would win in such a case, while
Mhm.
indigenous land land claims would go ignored. But I think he just did it for an optimistic ending to the story, really.
Well, while we are on this subject, Kevin, would you mind, elaborating more on the maps and the elements?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. I think that when Eli went back west from Toronto,
Yeah.
The west column for the Blackfoot Medicine Wheel, or like the blue section,
Mhm.
part of it's actually maturing or maturity. So like when he goes west, it's after he's matured, after everything's happened in Toronto, and he's coming back with
Yeah.
a lot of experience and stuff.
I mean, it shows how much he's grown as a person, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
another thing to add on to that,
Yeah.
east actually, or I believe the yellow section,
Yeah.
it's actually part of it is symbolizing growth and growing as a person. So going to Toronto was him growing as a person. So like going in his youth, starting a new life, meeting Karen, stuff like that.
He does like show interest in his like culture as well. Like she wanted to see the Sundance and like meet his like people as well, and Eli just rejected that.
I feel like
Yeah.
Karen wanting to go to the Sundance was more of a touristic approach rather than like I'm really
Yeah.
interested in Sundance.
Me,
And
Yeah.
I feel like she kind of imposed that upon her parents.
Which
And
makes Eli stand out more because he's more into his culture and he cares about his culture more than Karen, which is
No,
why I feel
okay.
like, well,
Hold
I
on.
believe Karen cares an equal amount about her own culture, but she doesn't she doesn't appreciate other people's culture, and she thinks of them as probably slightly inferior.
Eli
That's
actually
it.
rejected his own culture too at one point, because like remember when that was like the stage when he couldn't even go back to his own house, like place.
mhm.
He kind of like when she wanted to go, he would just like kind of ignore the question and like move on type of thing.
But I mean,
That could have been
since,
him dodging the whole touristic thing
I
with
but
mean,
like
Karen.
since
not
Eli is
necessarily though.
a professor in literature,
Mhm.
you would expect him to be like very open-minded and be very culturalistic.
But
His last name
Eli's
is like really
Well,
interesting.
yes,
where?
It's like
standalone.
Yeah, it stands
Campbell,
alone.
right?
It also
And like
foreshadows
Yes.
like Karen's death.
foreshadow.
I mean, do you
Yeah,
have
it
any?
Yeah, it
foreshadows
almost like
Karen.
foreshadows Karen's death and as well as
Yeah,
him
Say,
staying
Karen.
at the cabin
oh,
alone.
good. Well,
Yeah,
we're only meeting
exactly.
like
Yeah, it foreshadows so much. Like it shows that how he lives alone in the
right, okay.
cabin, and how like
Thanks,
the
Monsieur.
Karen's death, and then how he lives alone. That thing. He has
Yeah.
no one to go to.
I was just gonna like elaborate on his last name once again because Nikola was on his phone. I was just gonna say that his last name foreshadows Karen's death,
Hmm.
and in the end he dies alone in the
Yeah.
in the cabin. So
Yeah, no one notices where he like what happens to him, right? He just kind of
yeah,
disappeared at the end of the story.
Eli Stansalone is the last name. If you actually check it, like where he got that from,
Yep.
it's from Pete Stansalone, who was an indigenous man who, according to the National Film Board, went from cultural alienation to pride in his culture. And I'm quoting here. Eli experiences a similar plot actually, because
Yeah.
early on in Eli's life, he is completely enveloped in like the dominant
yeah.
Canadian culture. While later
Mhm.
on, he realized that he should stand up for his community
Mhm.
and support the indigenous community.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, him like maturing and growing as a person.
Yeah, we see how much he's grown throughout the whole story. Like he started off like just like a normal professor in a classroom, and he didn't really do much, and it was like all about his past and everything. And slowly he starts to grow as this person, and like he falls back into his cultural path and starts to defend what a person, a member of the culture, right? He starts defending and encouraging others to do it as
Yeah.
long as with him.
And as much as his death is like really sad, I feel like it's also very symbolic too.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Right.
Okay, so this was actually a really nice conversation. We got to talk about Eli a lot and
Mhm.
elaborate his events and how he is as a person.
Yep.
Yeah. He lived a really cool life, and I feel like a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff that he did connects to other stuff in the book as well.
His spirit is still there.
Yeah, his belief and spirit still lives on,
He
which is kind of cool.
respawned in
He respawned.
Lionel.
Okay, it was
Spawn
nice
killing.
chatting with you guys. Hope
Alright.
we could do
This
this
Yeah.
was a good
next
discussion.
time.
All right.
Alright.
Okay, bye.
I'm logging out. See you guys.
До свидания.